If we are purposeful, we should be able to move what ultimately will be nearly 2 million members when we join forces, from financial access to financial freedom. And I think that that is the unique piece about what credit unions do in a very, very purposeful, deliberate way, because at the end of the day, we are member-owned. So everything that we do is through that lens of making sure that we're deploying our capital, thinking through these decisions, the experiences that we make on behalf of the members that we serve.
Greetings, neighbors. Welcome to another episode of the Perfect Sense podcast. Today, we are having a follow-up conversation on the forthcoming SAFE Credit Union and BECU combination. I am very excited to be joined by Tiffani Vargas here at SAFE Credit Union and Jason Rudman from BECU. Welcome to both of you. Before we jump in, would you mind just taking an opportunity to introduce yourself to our audience and let them know who you are and what you do?
Yeah, thank you, Alex. Hi, I'm Tiffani Vargas. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at SAFE Credit Union. I have the distinct pleasure of working in all areas that involve our members and their experience. I'm excited for this conversation.
And thanks, Alex, for the invite. Jason Rudman with BECU. I am the Chief Member and Digital Experience Officer, and much like how Tiffani described her role, I have the honor of leading the teams that think all the way from marketing and brand to physical contact center and digital experience. And we do that on behalf of 1.5 million members and counting.
Excellent, excellent. Really appreciate you both taking the time out of your busy schedules to be here. We recently had a discussion with SAFE Credit Union CEO Faye Nabani about the forthcoming combination that is going to happen between SAFE Credit Union and BECU. I'm a longtime SAFE employee. I've been here 12 and a half years, and I'm honestly thrilled about the evolution and the direction we're heading. As far as I'm concerned, it seems like really great opportunity to enhance the way that we serve our members. Jason, I'd love to start with you. What we've heard about is the philosophy of digital first, human always. Would you mind going into detail on that and kind of letting us know what does that actually mean?
Yeah. So the hardcore reality, if you think about our experience since the pandemic, is that you can't escape digital in our lives. And we will see even more and more digital experiences because what we crave is convenience. And one of the most important things that we have as human beings is time. Time is a precious commodity. Digital enables us to maximize our time. At the same time, humans will always need humans in a digital world, at least as far as I can tell. And so what that ultimately means is there are certain, in the context of a credit union and what we do and the experiences we deliver, our members tell us that there are certain things that they actually want to do in a face-to-face setting, actually sitting with a member consultant, talking through what their financial needs are and how we might be able to solve them. And so that digital first, human always is leading with digital because that's the way the world is evolving, but not forgetting at the end of the day that we thrive on human connection. And I would argue that both for SAFE and BECU, our competitive mode is trust. And that trust has been built by human interaction over 85 years at SAFE and 90 years at BECU.
Absolutely. And I would agree, like as a working parent, there are times where being in this digital internet age, yes, there is an element of convenience and sort of expectations that folks have from whoever it is they're doing business with. You are absolutely correct about time being a commodity. Anything I can do that gives me more quality time with my kids is always an added bonus. But I'm curious, Tiffani, from your perspective, is there anything you find like particularly exciting as we continue to collaborate and sort of march towards this combination, especially in the digital space?
Absolutely. As Jason mentioned, digital is at the forefront, I think, particularly since the COVID-19 pandemic. People who maybe wasn't their go-to, it became a go-to for all of us. And the more that we can collaborate and talk about what are you doing and what are we doing and how do we bring those things together to better serve this collective group of members is something that I can't help get excited about.
Absolutely. And one thing that I had discussed with Faye is just how apparent it is that SAFE, especially locally in the Sacramento area, has been a formative institution, has had a lot of impact, has really invested so much in what Sacramento has become. And we see that in BECU too. The more I observe BECU, I find that they're making immense impact across all of the communities that they serve. And for me, it's like really exciting just to see how you have these two institutions where there's a lot of alignment there. And what I find, especially when I'm out sort of engaging in the community, is that for consumers that don't necessarily have a good understanding of like what a credit union is and how the credit union ecosystem operates, it's great when we can introduce folks to like the high level of experiences that we want to deliver. And I find that most folks, once they join a credit union, they rarely look back. So any thoughts you have around just kind of like that alignment that we're seeing between the two institutions?
Well, I think at the heart of the credit union movement is the credo of people helping people, right? And I think that's never been truer today. If both organizations, as we've gotten to know each other, would align on the fact that our ultimate responsibility is to help people improve their financial well-being and put them on a path to greater economic mobility through the work that we do. To your point around community engagement, you're absolutely right. Last year alone in Washington, BECU granted over $8.2 million to community organizations. We support over 250 in all walks, forms, shapes of life. That can be from housing affordability to food banks to financial education. And that's something that is very clear that SAFE does as well. I think again, if we are purposeful, we should be able to move what ultimately will be nearly 2 million members when we join forces from financial access to financial freedom. And I think that is the unique piece about what credit unions do in a very, very purposeful, deliberate way, because at the end of the day, we are member-owned. So everything that we do is through that lens of making sure that we're deploying our capital, thinking through these decisions, the experiences that we make on behalf of the members that we serve.
That's really refreshing to hear. And I think one thing that's so great is, for somebody who works in community relations, community is often thought of as a noun, but I like to think of it as a verb. We really have to be like out there engaging with folks, listening to what the needs are of the community. Tiffani, do you have any thoughts on what Jason had said?
Yeah, I actually do. One thing that is an unfortunate but true statement is credit unions can be the best kept secret. And one of the things that gets me excited about this combination is a larger united front to get the word out of the great benefits. To your point, Alex, when members join a credit union, they end up loving it and they become members for life, and they like to even brag about how long they've been members and the benefits that they're receiving. And so I get excited about there being 2 million members between the two combined organizations who can be out in the community sharing with their friends and family the experience and the benefits that they're receiving, so that we can just continue to grow that base.
Yeah, what I've found is rarely does a day go by where I don't interact with somebody who they're just candid about it. They tell me, "Oh, I'm a SAFE member." And it gives me a great opportunity to say, "Well, thank you for your membership, right? Without you, there's no me doing what I do." And so it's really fulfilling. And I find that, when we kind of remind ourselves that these are folks in our community, these are our friends, our neighbors, our families. And so it really is sort of our responsibility to try and drive lasting positive change that uplifts everyone in the community.
Absolutely. When you think about community and you think about members, there is no separation. Those are not two different things.
Yeah.
Because who makes up our community? Our members. Do you know who makes up your community? Your members. And we're about to be a combined community with combined members.
It's funny, but we have people that when they find out that you work at BECU, they do the same thing as what happens when you find out that you're at SAFE. So we have that in common. I think at the end of the day, we all realize that this is work that matters on behalf of people that matter, right? And we have an opportunity to change people's lives. I've got a 13-year-old and a 10-year-old. And so when they ask Dad what he does, and I say we change people's lives, I'm not a doctor, but they understand that the connection that our member-facing teams have and the teams that work at both SAFE and BECU to have on a daily basis ultimately moves people down a path to improving their financial well-being. And it is very clear that if you're well financially, you're likely to be more physically healthy, you're likely to be more mentally healthy, and all of that intertwines, and that's what makes the mission of these two great organizations coming together really, really powerful in the Sacramento region.
Speaking a little bit more tactically about what this looks like for folks, I think many consumers have observed that there's a lot of financial institutions that are actually sort of pulling away when it comes to having a physical presence among various communities. Can you tell us a little bit more about why BECU is making such investments, not only in the digital spaces, but in, again, being ingrained in the community?
ultimately you need to be where your members want you to be. That is, benefit that we give back to our members in the form of low or no fees, or repricing a loan, or a home buyer grant that we give for first-time home buyers. And so ultimately that works because we're able to combine digital and physical to make it a bigger and better experience. And we've, since 2023, we've opened 10 neighborhood financial centers. That's what we call our branches, in both Western Washington and Spokane, because we serve both Eastern Washington and Western Washington. And the data will tell us that we're growing deposits, we're growing loans, we're building relationships, and more importantly, we're in neighborhoods where, as Tiffani had said earlier, we're in the neighborhoods where our members need us most in order to serve their financial needs. And ultimately, again, I come back to that, moving people from access. Access is great, but the ultimate destination is financial freedom and economic mobility. And that's what a physical space can help do.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think in this age of, mobile banking and fintechs, I think there is still a significant segment of the population that feels much more as though they can trust their institution when they know, hey, it's right there in my backyard. Like if I need to stop in, if I need to talk to somebody who's a professional expert, I have that resource available to tap into. And then on the other side of that, right, when I need to be able to access things quickly, I have that flexibility as well.
Well, this is also where the physical and the digital combine. We actually we offer video banking, and so video banking, you can bank with BECU from the comfort of your armchair or your sofa, but you also can go into a select number of our locations and do your banking from there with your mortgage loan officer or an investment banker who's actually not physically in the space. And so again, that to me is where physical can help meet the digital divide and enable you to bank in the way that you want to bank.
Along those lines, as BECU continues its investment in Northern California, what does success look like? Like once this combination happens, what are sort of the things that we're going to look at to say, yes, it was successful and we're achieving the results that we set out to?
Yeah. I'm sure you've got a point of view on that, but we were just talking about this actually earlier.
We were.
So I think the first thing to be very clear about is that SAFE is a remarkable organization. And so this combination is not about fixing anything. It's about taking two great organizations and ultimately extending what we both do to more and more people. And that's the power of the combination, right? The great work that for 85 years the SAFE organization has been doing, combine that with 90 years at BECU, you've got a larger organization that can just scale and do more for more people. And so ultimately, I think that that's the promise. That will be the payoff, right? 3 to 5 years from now, we've done more financial health checks for more people than we've done today. We've enabled more people in Sacramento to buy their first home, to start their first business, to live better, a little bit better today than they did yesterday. And that today thing, I think, is really, really important. We very often are focused on the future. And I got reminded recently that I was thinking about generational wealth and our desire to pass generational wealth on. And somebody said to me, the reality is right now I need to figure out how to put food on the table for my kids. And so if we can make all of the members that we serve and all of the members of tomorrow sleep a little better at night, put a roof over their head in a way that feels meaningful for them, because I think a home provides dignity ultimately, or again, to start a business. Small businesses are the engine of the U.S. economy, right? And I think that Tiffany and I and our teams feel compelled to take a really big swing at that and do that in a very, very purposeful way. And I ultimately think that that is the largest benefit of many that this combination will bring, is we will be able to do that at scale in Sacramento.
Yeah, Jason and I spend time together and we talk about member experience because that's our
Yeah.
wheelhouse and what we get excited about. But, I hear the passion that BECU has in serving members, and I know and live and breathe the passion that Safe Credit Union has for serving members. And I think about, bringing passion like that together with higher resources and enhanced energy. I mean, honestly, I can hardly contain myself. The possibility in how our members will be impacted, in reduced fees, additional programming, different types of services that might be available to them, additional locations where we can meet them, perhaps the introduction of video banking, just some of these things the sky is really the limit. It's exciting.
Yeah, I really like that you emphasize those points because I think for most of the general population, banking and finance doesn't tend to be a particularly exciting topic. But I find that when I'm out engaging with folks, like I say it with the utmost sincerity. Like, I love what I get to do every day. I truly do feel like it fills my cup. And that's so rewarding and meaningful because if my cup is full, then it allows me to pour into my family, into my kids, and into the community as well. Like, again, you kind of experience it much more differently when you're out every day. It's like a different community, a different section of the region, a different subset of the population. And I love those interactions because for me, no 2 days ever really feel the same.
That energy and compassion is part of what drives us to want to do what we're doing. To Jason's point, we need to understand where our members are and be prepared to meet them there at wherever they are on that financial journey, and either be there to celebrate with them or to help them to solve some challenging, issues that they might be facing. So lots of opportunity to be in people's lives. And I think about relationships. The best relationships that all of us have are when we have a chance sometimes to connect face to face. Sometimes we want to be on a Zoom or a Teams call, not a phone call.
Yeah.
Sometimes texting won't work. Sometimes I don't have time and I just need to text. And if I apply the things I do in my personal life to the professional environment, I think it really speaks to the need for that digital engagement, video engagement, branch engagement. It all comes together.
Yeah, for sure. Did you have thoughts?
Well, I bring us back to the fact that we're also not-for-profit organizations, and I think that also looms very large over the passion that we have for the work, why we do the work. I mean, I don't know about Tiffani, but it was a conscious choice for me to join a not-for-profit to really see if I could help an organization advance this spirit of financial well-being. It is so needed in the United States today. By any measure, there are high percentages of Americans that are living paycheck to paycheck, even those that are making $100,000, $150,000 a year. It is become a pretty expensive experience in the United States. And so our ability every day to meet our members where we are, to Tiffani's point, understand where they are, which I think we do at both SAFE and BECU incredibly well. Our secret sauce are our frontline member-facing teammates. They have a level of variability that Tiffani and I could only imagine because you don't know what's going to come from the curb to the counter or what's on the end of the phone. Yeah. And what they do every single day is nothing short of heroic. But that, I think, is what gets us excited, is because each one of them are heroes. We get the ability to listen and then help people solve. And at the end of the day, if you've solved somebody's challenge, that makes you feel good.
I couldn't agree more. So as we speak to the member experience, what sort of enhancements, changes, updates can our members come to expect as, again, we march toward this combination?
Well, what I would say is we're on a journey. So I think Tiffani and I with our teams want to be very, very clear. First is SAFE does a lot of things really, really well. And there'll be no diminishment of that experience. So I think that's incredibly important. What we're looking for together with our teams is where can we together elevate the experience? And that means there will be an elevation of some of the experiences on the BECU side. We're working on those right now, which ultimately we can then bring to SAFE members when they're finished. Separately, there are some things that SAFE does extremely well that we're interested to learn and listen from and say, okay, how do we deploy those together? Take you back to, one of the benefits of this combination is we actually have a low, no fee model. We reprice some of our members' loans on an annual basis as their credit improves. We have a $8,000 home buyer assistance grant that we give. Those are the types of things that we'll be looking to extend into Sacramento, while at the same time working with Tiffani and the rest of the SAFE team to understand other new products we need to put into the marketplace in both Washington and Sacramento in order to meet the increasingly divergent needs of the population. That's the work that we do. And again, we are committed, and I think we show up in that way year in, year out, that it's both here's the banking products that we provide, and we're actually in your community with you. How do we how do we enable communities to thrive? How do we enable them to prosper? We'll continue to do that work. Carla Costa Paredes, who is our Chief Impact Officer, who the SAFE team know, right? Partnering together to understand in both Sacramento, Seattle, and Spokane, what does that continued commitment to community look like? How do we continue to thoughtfully invest in terms of where the community needs us to invest, and then ultimately enable those communities and the members within the community to thrive?
That's great. Tiffany?
Yeah, I have some thoughts to share, and I know that this exists at BECU because I've had the pleasure of traveling there and experiencing it. You know where community involvement starts? I see it starting in our branches. Our members come into our branches with dozens of donuts, with bouquets of flowers, with homemade cookies to say thank you to the frontline teams that are serving them on a daily basis. And I have no doubt that it's happening there. And what that does is it inspires a SAFE employee not to go work in the community because they feel obligated to do so, but because they're inspired to do so. They're excited for that opportunity to then go beyond the walls of their branches out into the community and to give their time and energy. We love to give philanthropic donations. We also love to give our time, and that's why we support the SAFE employees having 16 hours a year in paid time off to specifically go and do volunteer work. So where are we headed with that? We're doubling down and then some. I mean, we're going to be doing more and more of that in the future, both through the philanthropic give as well as the roll up your sleeves and let's get involved in this community and show them how much we love them.
Absolutely.
I think that last part's really important, right? So BECU too has time off, right, to volunteer, and it's thousands of hours, to your point, right, every year. And also, we actually, so to Tiffany's point, at a macro level, philanthropy will continue. We actually, very similarly to SAFE, like to personalize it. So each branch, each NFC, has a small operating budget where we ask them to deploy that within the community on causes and partners that are ultimately connected to where they are locally. So there's what happens at a high level from a macro perspective, and then there's the grassroots work, which again, to Tiffany's point, that's often where the real impact is. That's when a branch manager or a member consultant knows exactly what's going on in their community, and we give them the opportunity to, with a little bit of help from BECU, make that come to life.
Yeah, that's so nice to hear. And you've both been really great. It's been an absolute joy speaking with you both. Before we tie a little bow around things and go into our lightning round of questions, are there any final thoughts or reflections you want to share with our audience as it pertains to the upcoming combination?
I'll go on a little bit of so on some level, what I do and what we do on a daily basis is actually incredibly personal. I grew up in a 895 square foot house with one working toilet, and there were 4 kids, and there was never a lot of money to go around. And so if I think now to my parents and how I've learned to move me and ultimately my family from access to a level of financial freedom, that's what fuels me. And I think ultimately that's what's going to win the day here with every single person that I've met at SAFE and the work that we will do together. Because on some level, for each of us, it's not just a job. This is really, really personal because we actually see the true benefits of what we do on a daily basis. And look, when we combine, we're going to be almost 2 million members. We impact 2 million members at scale every single day, moving them from access to freedom. I'm okay telling my kids that that's what I do on a daily basis.
Excellent. Tiffany, thoughts?
I do have thoughts. So a few years ago, I found a mantra that wakes me up every day and inspires me, and it's help others win. And the acronym for that is HOW. And you know me, I'm a curious person, and I ask more questions around here than probably any other person at Safe Credit Union. But I do that because I'm inspired by this thought of helping others win, whether that's our employees or the leaders that are leading this organization. We'll combine with the leaders at BECU to lead the organization and for our members in our community. How do we help them win, which is all about building financial freedom and finding that space that you're at where you need help and somebody that you can have a relationship with to help you through it. And so, yeah, it's an exciting time. I really appreciate the time that you've given us.
Yeah, thank you so much. And so before we close things out, we want to have a little bit of fun. Ready for some light?
Jason does.
Sure. I don't know where these lightning round questions are going to go, but we'll do our best.
Yeah, we'll have some fun. So from each of you, I'd love to hear, in terms of snacks, are you sweet or savory? And give us some examples of your favorites.
More savory than sweet. And a brand that I shouldn't name has a tub of like mixed nuts with pistachios and things that are lightly salted, and they're absolutely amazing. And I could probably get through a whole tub of them.
Excellent.
So
I'm going with both because I love a good salted caramel.
Yes.
So I'll take the combination any day.
That's great. Okay, excellent. Okay, you both, well, you mentioned Brene Brown. I'm curious, just throughout the course of your life, is there a particular like pop culture icon or professional role model that you've sort of aspired to be like in your journey?
ooh, pop culture icon, no. No, I've got a favorite artist, but that's not what you asked. That is a really aspire to be. I think ultimately what I've aspired to be is to be the best human being that I can be. And so I think that's not a dodge, but it really is. I get influenced by many things. Some things that I've tried that haven't worked out, that I'm like, well, I have to do that better next time. So ultimately, I think my parents set sail with a very, very clear mission that you should leave this earth better than you found it, and do all that you can to make the experience for others the best it can be, and do good in the world.
Beautiful.
I don't have a pop culture icon, but I am a sports enthusiast. A little bit on the crazy side about it. So what I'll say is that I'm inspired by athletes. I have a little bit of a competitive nature, but I also have a tremendous amount of respect and maybe awe for the hard work that athletes put in and the results that they're able to achieve because of it. I really do think, why would you strive for anything other than excellence in life? And so I would say that that is probably something that drives me.
I love it. Final two questions. We are a show built around financial wellness and encouraging people on their journey to financial freedom. I'd love to hear from both of you. Do you have any personal financial wellness goals or aspirations that you're currently working on?
Oh, Tiffani?
What I'll share is I'm going to share a healthy tip for people, which is, if you have not checked out your subscriptions lately, I highly recommend you pull out a credit card statement and you review the subscriptions that you're paying for and think about if you're actually using all of those subscription services, and if not, make some phone calls. I'll add one more. If you haven't called your cell phone carrier recently and asked for a discount on your plan, I highly recommend that you do so.
All right.
I can attest to that last part. I've been with a carrier for a very long time, and when I threatened to move because the cost just kept getting up, it's remarkable what they came up with.
Isn't it amazing?
Right, it is
Good for you.
amazing. So I have a 13-year-old and a 10-year-old. So our financial planning in life is right now figuring out how to create pathways to higher education, how to do that in a way that's efficient, effective, and affordable. And so those are the life goals right now, which ultimately comes down to, then I need to call the cell phone carrier to take a little bit off of the bill each month, because that needs to go into the college fund.
All right. To wrap us up, I am curious, is there any spots around California or Washington that you like to visit or want to visit?
Jason? Go ahead.
Sure. Well, I've got two. One to visit in Washington, Mount Rainier. I got a colleague on my team, and I keep trying to plan snowshoeing. So I actually want to snowshoe on Mount Rainier, just to say that I've done it. California, have visited and would always want to go back, would be Big Sur. Just the topography, the scenery, the restfulness, just the beauty of that is one of California's gems.
Beautiful.
Yeah, Carmel is on my list. So
Awesome.
I've never had a bad weekend in Carmel, and I'm willing to go back anytime. And Napa, I think, is, another, it's a nice getaway. It's not very far, but it's very relaxing, and it makes you feel like you've gotten away from things for a couple of days.
Yeah, I love that your selections are very much rooted in kind of like the natural environment, right? Because there's so much beauty really on the Pacific Northwest, all throughout California. And I think one thing more than anything is if you find yourself, at least maybe for myself, start feeling a little egocentric or a little kind of ingrained in the hustle and bustle of life, one of the best ways to reset is to just kind of humble yourself, be in nature, and sort of express gratitude for just the wonders of how the world works. So once again, I really appreciate you both taking the time out of your schedules to be here with us today. I look forward to having more conversations in the future. And just really appreciate you both.
Invite us back. We're ready, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Part
All right.
2.
Part 2.
Cool.
Thanks, Alex.
Thanks. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Perfect Sense podcast. We'd love to hear your comments and questions around the upcoming BECU and Safe Credit Union combination, so be sure to leave them below so we can incorporate them into future episodes.
If you'd like to learn more about SAFE products and services and how we can help you, visit our website at safecu.org and schedule an appointment with one of our professional experts today. SAFE is federally insured by NCUA and is an equal housing opportunity lender. The purpose of this podcast is to educate and inform on topics surrounding financial well-being. This podcast does not constitute financial, tax, or legal advice and may not apply to your individual situation. You should consult with your own financial, tax, or legal advisor for specific information pertaining to your individual situation. The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the participants expressing them and do not necessarily reflect those of Safe Credit Union or any of its officials.